Without further ado, let's introduce Lenny Dykstra. Come on out, Lenny.
Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome, Lenny.
Right. Good to be here.
What we have here, Mr. Dykstra, is an assortment of attorneys, insurance professionals, risk management professionals from the Philadelphia, New York, California, Texas, Chicago area, all fans, and would love to ask you some questions.
Well, first, let's make sure. Many of you taken my deposition. No. Okay. No, great to be here when I was invited to talk to attorneys who I know very well. In fact, there's three things I know probably better than anybody. One is baseball, one is women, and the other is attorneys. You're talking to a man that spent $12 million. I almost sound like Gordon Gekko, don't I? And greed is good. Greed works. Greed cuts through and clarifies. No, so $12 million in attorney fees, which, remember, there's this big group called the IRS that says you have to pay taxes. So the reality is I paid $25 million in attorney fees. And why? Because you have to have, without them, I've been down the road of pro per and represented myself when I'm looked at like I have a disease because I'm not qualified to be in a room with you because I didn't go to school as long as you did, da-da-da-da-da. But back to attorneys, I first want to congratulate you because as attorneys, you know you're held to a higher standard. That being said, the beauty of it is as hard as it is to pass the bar, but when you do, you get that certificate that says, I now have a license to steal. I mean, I'm not saying you guys steal. I'm saying that motion after motion after motion after motion. By the way, the best attorney I ever had was Daniel Petrocelli. I don't know if you remember him. He represented the Goldmans when the juice got loose. Okay? And watching this guy litigate, I gave him $4 million to help me with a partnership deal. It was like a 6-4-3 double play. Because if you think about it, if you're a litigator, what are you doing? You're selling. You're selling to 12 people. You're hoping that you can sell better than the other guy. Just like a preacher's doing. He's selling. He wants you to put the money in the basket. But as a lawyer, the first thing I ask a lawyer when I hire him is, can we win this case? And they tell me, like, I can tell by their eyes. And so let's move to my federal case where, because, by the way, you're talking to a guy that's planted the flag on Mount Kilimanjaro and slept in the depths of Death Valley. Okay, I've flown around in my own jet. I've been locked up in a 6x9 cage for 2 years, okay? Which, by the way, I did become ambidextrous. But we'll get back to that. Read my first book in the cooler. See, I never read because, I thought it hurt my eyes if I played baseball. And you see, you're talking to a guy that had one friend in high school. Why? Somebody to play catch with. Because my ability or my gift wasn't like you guys. You're smart. I'm not smart. What I was is I had an ability to hit a baseball where people weren't standing, get the first, second, third touch home, and then you get paid $20 million. But that's kind of changed with baseball, with the new sponsor they have, which is Milk and Cookies, and so baseball's a little boring for me now, and if you do market studies, you'll see it's last on the marketing. The people don't identify with players. Now, is that because steroids have left the game? Probably. But does that make it right that they should have steroids? No. I mean, because at the end of the day, and when I say I'm being serious, I'm being serious. At the end of the day, the kids, you don't want kids like my kid. I don't want my son taking steroids. I mean, so That's what they used to say to me, like, when I was in my cell. Do you hear, are people talking to you? Like, so anyway, let's get back to attorneys. So just so you do know, and I'll be clear, because when I say things with absolute certainty, it's absolute certainty. I would be your worst fucking nightmare on the other side of a deposition. Trust me. I mean, you know why? Because I've done so many, and wait, what you asked? What did you ask? Did I know? I'm a little slow. I get hit by a lot of pitches. Can you repeat the question? Well, let me. I'm not supposed to guess, right? So, look at my attorney. You can answer the question. I don't remember. Now, this is just the beginning of the pain and the torment and the torture, okay? Because then it gets to me when they say, okay, were you there on the 17th of October? So the question is, are you asking me if I was there on the 17th of October? Let me think about this. Because remember, I'm a little slow, so help me. Just stay with me here. Can I take a break? I got to talk to my attorney. And it gets worse. You're hating me already. But see, if you're on my side, you love me. You know why? I've never lost a lawsuit. Okay? The only group I lost to is this big fucking organization called the federal government. And by the way, this is a story you're gonna love, because I got Pearl Harbored one night when, again, I don't know if any of you are bankruptcy attorneys, but if you are, I feel sorry for you, because that's about two things: misery and loss. And so I filed an 11, got converted to a 7. Long story short, I got assigned a trustee. I had $50 million in assets still, and he had to sign under penalty of perjury that he didn't represent any of my competitors or my debtors. So, J.P. Morgan, who was my biggest creditor, so he signed under penalty of perjury. He didn't represent him. Da, da, da. So then weird things start happening. Like, he's doing things that don't make sense. So I call my Orthodox Jewish attorney in New York, Moshe Mortner. And I say, Moshe, something's fucked up going on. Get on pager and see what's going on. 2 hours later, he calls me back. Are you sitting down? I said, what the fuck's the matter if I'm sitting down? What do you want to know? Tell me. He says, you're not going to believe it. The day he signed under penalty of perjury that he didn't represent J.P. Morgan, he had 50 cases with him. Subsequent, which I had to look up in the source, which means afterward, okay, to him taking on representative, he got hired in 300 new cases as their lawyer, okay? So I told him, and I warned him when this whole process was going down, that Arturo, there's gonna be a day when you're gonna slip up, and when you do, I'm gonna be right there, and not only am I gonna put it in, I'm gonna break it fucking off. That day came. I said, Arturo, every dog has his day. You broke the law and you got caught. Now I own you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to think about what I want to do with you. So the weekend goes by, and I'm a businessman, so he made $20 million on that. So I said to myself, I'm a businessman. Feelings out, personal is out, business, so I'll cut a deal with him. I told my attorney, write him a letter. Say we'll sign whatever he needs, give me $10 million, he can have the $10 million, he can keep, fucking people or whatever he did. And I go on, and because I need to do that for my family. So he sends him a letter. 5 days later, I said, did you hear from Arturo? He said, no. I said, wow, so he has some balls. 10th day, nothing. I said, what? He said, what do you want to do? I said, what do you mean, what do I want to do? Serve the motherfucker. What are they going to do, put me in jail? No longer than 10 minutes later, I'm coming out of my house, and it was like they'd captured Osama bin Laden. 30 fucking guys come out of trees, and they handcuffed me, which, by the way, they heard. I never had handcuffs on. And I said, what's going on? What's going on? They wouldn't tell me. And they say you're being detained, okay? So I drive down this tunnel, and it looks like a Law and Order movie, you know, in a dark room. And I don't know what the fuck's going on. In come these two guys with not Armani suits, but not today's man suits, FBI suits, you know? And I say, what the fuck am I doing here? Treated like a murderer. And they say, we're here to talk to you about your bankruptcy. I said, my bankruptcy? Because remember, I'm not putting it all together. I said, what the fuck do you want to know about my bankruptcy that's not on the docket? And they say, before you do this, go to the Fed. Straight. They use the state to do the dirty work. And you got to look and you got to sign this. Then we can talk to you. Last line says you have the right to an attorney. I said, well, I mean, look, I did get hit by a lot of pitches. I'm not that smart, but I think I'll take that. Because there's 2 FBI agents in here, and I'm in a room with a bunch of black glass and cameras. So they pack up and they leave. So 3 hours later, I'm sitting in there like crazy now. In comes a dude that did have a today's man suit on, a state guy. And I said, listen, motherfucker, take me home or put me in jail. He said, okay. I said, oh, this is sweet. I mean, so we're walking out, and like he's heading towards like a room that looks something like where people get booked. I said, where are you going? What are we doing? He said, we're going to book you. You're going to be arrested. But what? So the next thing I know, face to the left, the right, the whole deal, and I'm in a cage. Seven days go by. See, we have this constitution where like they only hold you for 48 hours before they have to bring charges or let you go. And 7 days go by, no one can find me. And so on the 8th day, they come get me, and I said, oh God, man. Because remember, I haven't put all of it together. So as I'm walking out, guess who's waiting? The 2 FBI guys. I said, you 2 again. I said, now what? They said, now you're going to federal prison. What? They said, you're getting indicted. I said, what the fuck's that mean? They said, you'll see in the morning, you'll have an attorney. And it's an attorney who I didn't know. I said, what is going on? What is this indictment? He says to me, here, let me look at it. It said, the United States of America versus Lenny Dykstra. I said, really? I said, I mean, like, is this really? And at the end of the day, I'll end this story by saying this. I told my attorneys, like, there's no way I'm going to plead, there's no way they can win, this and that. But see, my attorneys, I wasn't feeling the love, you know, when I'm like, are you behind me? Are you ready? Are you ready? And they're like, I said, what's the deal? Let's make this simple. What are the odds of me winning from 1 to 10? They said negative 100. And I said, wow. So I pleaded, and which was very difficult. And so in the federal system, as you know, they have guidelines. So my guidelines were 3 to 5 years. And my attorney, she was a woman, a great attorney, she said to the judge, who had a great judge, it was almost over, and she said, Your Honor, I was in front of you last week, same kind of case as a fraud case, but that was a $500,000 fraud case, no criminal history, and you gave my client probation. These men want 5 years of Mr. Dykstra's life for a $200,000 fraud case. Why? Because they don't like him. So the judge gives me 6 months, which is unheard of. But he did say, you know, I'm trying to figure out who is Mr. Dykstra. So we're going to find out how he does with the poor people. So I got a hit with 500 hours of community service. Did all of them. All of them. And so I learned a lot, and I've actually become aware of how valuable time is and how valuable your freedom is. But I don't recommend to the people out there to go down my road to learn that. But anyway, I can go on and on and on.
We can listen all night long to you, too.
Yeah, so give me the question.
We got some questions. We got a question in the back there. Longtime Met fan, Magna Legal Services CEO, Tony Vaglica.
Hey, Lenny, how are you?
Great.
What's in that jug? I read your book, thought it was very interesting.
Everyone asks me that, but the good thing about that is my answer. See, there's this cup I have to, like, urinate in. And my PO said, you have fun, you go party, but if you happen to time it wrong, I come test you, and you're positive, he said, I'm going to call the federal marshals, and you're going to get picked up, and you're going to start your sentence over. So my program beats the shit out of AA 7 days a week and twice on Sunday.
I'm glad to hear that. Lenny, I read your book, and I found it very interesting, a big Mets fan. I was wondering what your favorite story was from the World Series when you hit that home run. That made my life a lot better.
Which home run?
The one at the end of the game to win it.
That was the playoffs.
Rob, sorry, yeah.
It's all right. It's all right. I mean, it's just it's unreal to be able to even say which one, because that was a moment that put me on the map in New York. But more importantly, that put us in position to win, and I was all about winning. My whole life was built around being a winning player, and so what it felt like I didn't even swing. It felt like it just and I kind of floated around the bases, and my team's waiting for me, and it's almost surreal. It's one of the most satisfying things I've ever accomplished, not because of what I did, but because of what I did for the city and the fans, and because, you're a group of 30 men fighting for 6 months to get there, and I helped us continue. So it's probably the pinnacle of my career, highest moment.
Question?
Hi, I'm one of those rare females that is absolutely obsessed with baseball.
Yeah.
So what I want to ask you right now is, in 1986 during the World Series, you hit in Game 3 a home run that actually brought the Mets back into the game, and they ended up winning that World Series. That World Series against the Red Sox, SUCKS, was, thank you, has been deemed as one of the best World Series ever. How do you think that 1986 World Series, which of course you were a part of and a big, very big impact in, compares to the Cubs winning this year?
Good question. This is great. I'm glad to hear you're a baseball fan, and it sounds like you know what you're talking about. I predicted the Cubs would win this year with the manager because
Yay, Joe.
your manager, you're only as good as your leader. Remember, as a manager in baseball, it's not about teaching people how to play baseball. It's about getting people. You have to motivate your players. Your players want to have to play for you, and so that's what he's best at. See, because remember, I come from the world of I'm smart enough to know I'm not smart enough. Okay, so I always hire the best people. So he did something for Chicago that's never happened before. But back to your question about '86, and so because we went through that very, very draining series with Houston, and before we know it, we come back home and we're down 0-2. I mean, boom. I mean, and by the way, when you face Roger Clemens, who is the best pitcher in all-time baseball, and very, very. There's never been a right-handed pitcher I didn't want to hit against. I didn't want to hit against him. By the way, he's not in the Hall of Fame. Real quick on the Hall of Fame. How can the 3 best players in baseball not be in the Hall of Fame? But we'll get back to that. So it's more than that though, see, because what I did is I told my wife on the way to we were flying there, I gotta somehow get this momentum switched up. So I'm gonna actually try to hit a home run. And when you do that 99.9999 times, you pop it up or you ground it out. I said, I gotta try to hit a home run and like spin this momentum and get these fans out of it. Just so happens Earl Can Boyd throws me a cock shot and I wrap it around the foul pole and put a crooked number up so Hayda's got some breathing room, and we go on and we did what we had to do, and that's get 2 out of 3 in Boston. So that was a good point you picked up, because the whole thing is we had never had momentum. We were like down before we knew it, but that kind of gave us a little charge, and then the rest is history. Because, and by the way, one of the best, doesn't matter that I played it, no, it was the single best, craziest, unbelievable World Series and playoffs in the history of baseball. Because remember the playoffs too. I mean, we played like 17 innings, and like, remember, we're facing Mike Scott the next day, who we can't beat, and so that World Series and playoffs has to go down as one of the all-time best. And I'll tell you this: Game 7 in that World Series, I don't even remember. I can tell you that with honesty. We knew we were going to win as soon as Game 6 ended. I mean, I think we were even losing in Game 7 for a while. But anyway, who's next?
Go ahead, Perry.
Yeah, Lenny, I guess the question maybe will be a little controversial.
I don't care.
In the group, in terms of which fans do you think were better, the New York fans or the Philadelphia fans?
Well, look for me, I had the privilege and the honor, and I say that with all sincerity, to play for both East Coast teams. I mean, see, it's a lot different playing on the East Coast opposed to the West Coast or anywhere else, where, like, when we play the Dodgers, for instance, I'd watch and we'd have a tight game going, and like I'd see from center field the fans 7th inning just leaving, like, what the fuck are these guys doing? So the difference is this: in Philly, the fans threw batteries at you. In New York, they threw coins. So, but honest to God, when you're winning in those cities, other teams do not want to come in and play you. That home field advantage is huge. And one of the things also that's important I want you to understand is that the fans on the East Coast appreciate playing the game right. So how many times do you hear fans clap when a guy's on second, no outs, and you hit a ground ball to the right side, get him over to third? You hear that in Philadelphia and New York, nowhere else, because they know how it works. Okay? So, and I say this, well, I consider it an honor and a privilege to be able to play in those 2 cities in front of the fans. Because what I would do is, after each game, I had a little, I would sit in my stool for a minute and I would say to myself, if I were a fan, would I have paid money to watch me play? That's how I judge myself. And that answer every time was always yes, except for one time. And we'll get into that story later if you want. It's actually a great story, but in fact, let's get into it right now.
Lenny,
Last question.
Lenny, I have.
First one?
And then we got pictures and autographs.
Huh?
Pictures and autographs with you.
Oh, we can do that later. I got a lot of good answers. Yeah.
So-
Hey, Lenny.
So Lenny, I got two short, quick questions for you right here. Being a private investigator, is it true that you actually hired a private investigator and spent a lot of money on him to get some information about umpires, and you used to screw with them in the batter's box?
No, I didn't screw with them. I fucked with them. And by the way, is it true? Let's put it this way. HarperCollins, okay, who published my book, big fucking company, actually the biggest in the world. They had 30 lawyers call me to go over the fact checks because they kept saying there's no fucking way this is true. And I said, okay, so is it true? Yes, it's true. Of course it's true. You know why? Because I could not take walking into the batter's box and having a brown nose. Hi, how are you tonight? Everything all right? Brown nose of the umpire. Fuck that. I cut through and clarify. I needed absolute certainty. Okay? So the number was 500,000. And by the way, remember, they're humans. Their blood is as red as ours. Some like to chase women, some like to gamble, some like guys, whatever. I don't have a problem with it. But, for instance, there was one umpire that called a strike on me that, by the way, was right down the fucking middle. And I looked back and I said, really? Did you cover it? Did you cover it last night? I know the line was, I think, 4. And this guy's looking at me like because see, fear does a lot to a man. So my strike zone went from this to this to this. Why? Because they don't give a fuck. They just care about themselves at that point. So is it a coincidence I led the league in walks the next year? I think not. So absolutely I did that.
Great.
Now, does that make me proud? Not really, but you know what? When you're 5'9", and you come from a middle-class family, and you have nothing, and you can make $30 million, you do what you have to do. I just take it to the next level. Okay?
Thank you. On that same thing, when you and Dutch were coming back from Kruk's bachelor party in Radnor,
It's the road's fault.
I know it was, but was the bachelor party worth it?
It wasn't about was it worth it. That's another unbelievable story. So I just bought the first SL, Mercedes SL, and so I was like, I was buzzed but not hammered, and it was raining, and so we take a turn, and like the car hydroplaned. You never forget that feeling. And next thing I know, I'm in a police station with 2 cops with Dalton, and these fucking guys let us go. This is how big of fans they are. So Dalton was a very, very tough individual, maybe the toughest guy ever. And so they let us go, and we're walking out, and I find I couldn't take it. I look at him, and I said, bro, call me a pussy, whatever you want. I think I'm gonna fucking die. I gotta go to the hospital. And he wasn't giving in. He said, me too. So we go to the hospital, and the doctor said that I would have died, and he would have died, but because, you know, the bruising of the heart, but because of our strength, because of steroids saved my life. Joking, no, but he did say because of the strength that we had that we were able to. So I broke every bone in my face, punctured every bone, broke my collarbone, and just keep going, and that was when I bought a limousine, which everybody thinks, ooh, you bought a limo. Fuck, it's only a fucking town car cut up, and it's just a perception. So I didn't want to put myself in that position again, so I still don't. Now I take Uber. Now I take Lyft. Now I don't drive. First of all, it's too much work anyway. You got too many moving parts. You got to think. It's all kinds of problems. Next.
Hey, Lenny, I'm from Houston.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
I know. You guys broke our hearts in '86. I want to ask you, what was it like playing in Game 6 of the 1986 NLCS, which was called one of the greatest games ever played? And 2, how much tobacco did you usually chew during a typical game?
Okay, well, let me make something clear here on that, 'cause that's a great question. Because I'm giving you facts. These are undisputed facts, okay? This is like when you're doing your closing to the jury, and the facts are undisputed, okay? Meaning, understand this. I'm not playing that game because I'm left-handed. Bob Knepper throws fucking doo-doo is pitching. He's got a one-hitter going through 8. One hitter over the middle. Almost a perfect game. 3-0. Mike Scott pitching Sunday. He owned us. At the Dome. So Davey Johnson walks down to me and says, you're leading off the 9th. I said, oh, you finally want to fucking win, huh? Okay. So the 9th inning, I hit a triple. But by the way, it really wasn't, it was a weird triple because, I mean, I hit it good, but the Dome was huge. And you would have thought like they would have caught it. But it was like a grenade. They all both combined, and like, so the baseball gods were working here. So I'm on third. Mookie comes up, hits a hunk back liner, and then we play, I don't know how many ever innings it is, and we win the game. We don't face Scott. And so if I don't get that hit, I'm not trying here to brag, I'm just giving you facts. If I don't get that hit, we don't play in the World Series, because you know what? Mike Scott was fucking vicious and deadly. So I'm not saying that it was all me, because I took other hitters too, but that moment when everything was going bad, Nepper's cruising, and it was kind of fun to watch that whining bitch walk off the mound, and throw the ball down. But anyways, that was a great series. So you carry that in the World Series. How can it not be the best ever? I don't know. It's as good as it gets.
Last final question.
Lenny, I'm a lifelong Mets fan. That game was probably the best game I've ever seen in my life. So it was fantastic.
Game 6.
86, Game 6, 17th inning.
Yeah, I saw it. It was the best. I watched it from the bench.
Yeah, you hit the homer.
Yeah, no, Game 6. World Series.
No, the playoff. It was a Game 6, wasn't it?
I hit no Worlds. No, I hit a triple off Nepper.
No, against the Astros in '86.
I hit a triple off Nepper.
You hit the homer. Anyway.
Well, it doesn't matter. The bottom line is I made Nepper like it. That's my favorite part.
Well,
See, he thinks about me every fucking day.
Who was your favorite teammate and who was your least favorite teammate?
That's a great question. My favorite teammate, a lot of them. One of my good friends was Darryl Strawberry, who, by the way, is hung like a fucking swamp mule. And by the way, let me give you some facts. We're talking legal here. We're talking facts, right? We are talking facts. Only player in the league, listen now, only player in the league that had to have his cock taped to his leg. No, he couldn't run. He couldn't run. So that was a very traumatizing experience to have to shower with him for 6 years, because he made me feel like a 2-year-old. I mean, in fact, therapy, it took 2 years of therapy to get over that, okay? So I nicknamed him, it's in the book. Here, I got a picture. I couldn't even crop it out. I'll show you. Go on. So I said, me and my man Straw, a.k.a. Soul Pole. So, you see, can you close up? You can see we couldn't crop it because it's down, it keeps going, it starts there. And
Oh man. Okay. I see.
So I said to Straw, I said one time, Straw, bro, you know I'm not gay, I'm normal, whatever. But I just got to ask you, can that get to the base? Like, because I don't know much about health and all that stuff, but there's body parts, right? And he says, no, never. I said, wow. I mean, that's incredible. Now, back to Strawberry, though, could have been a great player, Hall of Famer. The reason he's not, or isn't, because he didn't love baseball. You got to love baseball to play in that rigorous. It's the most difficult schedule in all of sports, and so you have to love to play. And so there's a lot of players like that don't love the game, and so they fall short on what they can do. But then the next roommate was Dwight Gooden, who was probably the most dominant pitcher I ever played behind. Great guy. But the '86 team, see, there was the blend of youth and veteran, and the combination of all that, and then that was the first year, like, you had the curtain calls and the excitement of the fans, and so it was a great year that I'm very honored to be a part of.
Ladies and gentlemen, Lenny Dykstra, Lenny Nails Dykstra, give it up, and he'll be at 28 West. We're all heading over to 28 West. Thank you very much for joining us today. It was a great program. Let's move it on over to 28 West. Thank you very much, Mr. Dykstra. Thank you.